Hello students, this is Neha Sharma. Today in this video, we are going to see the detailed summary of The Enemy, which is written by Pearl S. Buck. So as I told you in the last video, the story has been set up in Japan during the Second World War. Here you can see picture of the author Pearl S. Buck. It was the time of Second World War and a Japanese doctor finds an American prisoner of war at his doorstep. He is in a dilemma that being a doctor, should he save the wounded man, or being a Japanese, should he hand over the enemy to the army? Here in this picture you can see Dr. Sadao, and second is the picture of Tom POW, who is in prisoner of war. So the story starts like this. Dr. Sadao's house was situated on the coast of Japan. He had been living there since his childhood. The house was made on the rocky beach above stones with pine trees that were tilted towards one side. He would accompany his father to the islands of the South Seas often. His father would point toward the island and would say that those were the stepping stones towards the future of Japan. Sadao retained all the things that his father would tell him as a child. His father never played or joked with him. His father underwent a lot of hardship to bring him up. Sadao knew that his father was concerned about his education. He was sent to America at the age of 22 to study surgery and medicine. He returned at the age of 30. Before dying, Sadao's father saw Sadao become famous not only as a surgeon but also a scientist. Sadao was on his way to discover a treatment for wounds which would make them absolutely clean. So he was not sent abroad with the armed forces, and he was also retained in Japan because the old journal was suffering from an ailment which needed to be operated upon in case of an emergency. Here the writer describes the scene outside Dr. Sadao's house when he was standing in the lobby. So Dr. Sadao saw the boundary of a nearby island and he became invisible gradually as it got covered in the mist. He wanted to go to his wife. Before he could go inside, the door opened and his wife looked out for him. She crossed her arm with his, smiled at him, remained silent and stood by him. They had met in America. He ensured before falling in love with her that she is Japanese. He thought that the professor and his wife were kind as they were keen to help foreign students. He was glad that they had accepted his kindness and went to their house because it was there that he had met Hana. Sadao often tell Hana that it was a mere coincidence that he went to the professor's house that night. If he had not gone there that night, he would have met Hana. Sadao and Hana loved each other even after many years of marriage. They had not married in haste in America. Rather, they returned to Japan, sought permission from their parents, and then got married in a traditional Japanese ceremony. That moment, they saw a figure appear out of the mist when they were thinking about their past, that how they met in America. So that time they saw a figure, the outline of a man's body, which was visible in the mist. He walked unsteadily with his arms above the head. The man walked a few steps and then disappeared in the mist. Upon seeing the figure, both of them bent forward over the railing of the veranda to have a closer look at the man. They saw him again. He was crawling on his hands and knees. Then he fell on his face and kept on lying there. They realized that he was badly injured. The sand on which he lay had blood stains on one side, which indicated that he was wounded. He approached the man who lay motionless. An old cap hung on his head. His dress was also wet and torn. Sadao turned the man's head as they saw the face. Hannah spoke that he was an American. As his cap fell off, they saw his wet yellow colored hair, which has not been cut for a long time. He was young. His face had such marks which indicated that he had been tortured. He had a rough, unkempt, yellow colored beard. As he was a doctor, he moved his trained fingers around the man's back to search for the wound in the lower part of his back. It was a gunshot. Sadao packed the wound with the sea moss that stopped the bleeding. The man moaned with pain, but he did not awaken. Sadao said that the best thing was to put the man back into the sea, as they identified that the man is an American soldier. Sadao said that if they gave him shelter, they would be arrested for sheltering an enemy. And if they handed him over to the Japanese army as a prisoner, then he would die in the prison. As he thought that both the options were not favorable, so the best option was to put him back into the sea. Both of them did not move ahead to do so. Hannah asked about the man's identity. Sadao picked up the torn cap and read the words written on it. He said that the man was a sailor from an American warship and read out the words U.S. Navy written on the cap. An old cap hung on his head. His dress was also wet and torn. Sadao turned the man's head. As they saw the face, Hannah spoke that he was an American. They were not able to gather the courage to throw him into the sea. Sadao was reluctant in throwing the man into the sea. He reasoned that if the man was well, he would hand him over to the police without any hesitation. He was not bothered about the injured man, but his only concern was that he was wounded. Hannah said that if he could not throw him into the sea, then the second option was to carry him home. Sadao was concerned that the servants, Hannah said that they would tell them that they intended to hand him over to the police once he recovered. Sadao and Hannah lifted the injured man into the house. He was very light. They carried him up the steps into the side door of the house. The door opened into a passage, and they went down the passage towards an empty bedroom that belonged to Sadao's father and had not been used after his death. The injured man was laid on the thick mat on the floor. Hannah took a soft quilt from the cupboard but resisted putting it on the injured man. She said the man was very dirty. Sadao said that the man had to be washed. Sadao asked Hannah to get some hot water so that he could wash the man. Hannah did not want that Sadao should touch the man. She said that they would ask the servant to wash the injured man. She would call Yumi to leave attending the children for a few minutes and wash him. He asked her to call Yumi. While he would call the other servants, before he could go out, he saw the injured man's face. It was so pale that he stopped, bent forward, and felt his heartbeat to see if he was alive. The heartbeat was very faint, but it was there. He was also breathing, hence, the injured man was alive. Sadao said that if the man was not operated upon, he would die. Hannah screamed with fear and asked Sadao not to save the man. She feared that if he lived, they would be in danger. He looked down towards the injured man and wondered that he had a lot of energy which had kept him alive through such torture. Sadao left. He said that something had to be done with the injured man irrespective of the result. The first thing was to wash him. As he walked out of the room, Hannah followed him. She did not want to remain in the room alone with the white man. This injured man was also an enemy and was a threat to them. So we continue with the chapter in the next video. Till then, think what Dr. Sadao and Hannah did with the soldier. Thank you.